guys? So today we're gonna see what is clean architecture. But before starting with clean architecture, you guys should be knowing something about storyboards and view control because this is an advanced topic. So you should be familiar with storyboard and view controller. So let's get started. So yeah, clean architecture. First, we'll see what other topics we're gonna learn today. What is an architecture, what is MVC and issues, by Viper, clean architecture and VIP cycle. The remaining is the code which I'm not gonna show today. It's particularly we gonna code this stuff. So let's get started with the presentation. So what is an architecture? Basically an architecture is structuring your project code. Basically you're dividing your code into you see business logics and UI, separation of business logic and UI. So yeah, what are your models, what are your domains? Just don't freak out. You might not be familiar with those terms, but we'll get through it. It's okay. So yeah, just try to imagine a picture. You have written 6,000 line of code in a view controller, and there is a bug within the view controller. And how would you test 6,000 lines of code? So basically, that view controller would be a massive view controller. Unofficially, MVC model view controller is unabbreviated, like abbreviated, massive view controller. That means a big file. So you cannot debug a big file. So the best architecture would be an architecture which lets you to completely test your app easily and as well debug it. So yeah, what an architecture will do, it would separate your logic of UI and presentation layer. Everything is separated. So that give rise to you know decoupling, the laws of decoupling, and SRP, that is single responsibility principle. That means every file would do a little bit of work, but that work is would be done perfectly. That is SRP, single responsibility principle. Let's get started. So yeah, what is model view controller? I guess most of you would already know what is model view controller because this thing is a traditional approach for creating softwares. So yeah, it's already been introduced with Java, Microsoft, .NET framework everywhere. So model view controller is also considered to be Apple's most favorite one because they officially went with um, Apple MVC. So they, kind of replaced MVC with Apple MVC and integrated some new shit. But that's okay. So what is a model? If you don't know, let's just look what it is. A representing a representation of I'm sorry, a representation of real-time object. So maybe a doctor is an object, or maybe a person, maybe a student, maybe a dog. So a dog can have four legs. So the variables would be var, you see, var legs. That is an integer. Var name. So yeah. So the variable would have a name, legs, whatever. Then view UI related stuff. That means you place a button on the storyboard. You place many elements, a view, a scroll view or maybe collection view. So many things. So anything which is related to UI is completely into view section. Then we have controller. A controller, just as I said, according to MVC, is a big time file. It's a massive view controller. So it would handle everything. When a user clicks the button, what will happen? So the button when it will click would have multiple functions. All the functions is written in the same file. That is the main issue because when the user clicks the button, maybe that button function action actually would have somewhere around 15 functions in it to be executed, and on the seventh function there's a bug. So you get all messed up when you're implementing MVC. So there are many issues as we just discussed. So MVC controller does everything. You know, there's no separation of logic. On more than 6,000 lines of code in one file, is it easy to debug as well as test? No, I don't think so. So we have a more better approach, a more better architecture to deal with decoupling and SRPs and get less bugs. That is Viper. So what is Viper exactly? It says view, interactor, presenter, entity router. That's all Viper stands for. A clean architecture is something we'll discuss about it later. But for the time, you should be knowing Viper is an application to clean architecture. MVC is an architecture, MVVM is an architecture. Okay, but Viper itself is a application to clean architecture. That's a big thing. You see, there's a difference. MVVM is not a application to clean architecture. It's a clean architecture. That's it. There's a difference. So the first thing of Viper is view. As it stated, the view controller is responsible for two things. Initiate any onload activity. If you want to perform some fetch of data, anything on initial view, when the view launches, maybe there are thousands of you see JSON data which is passed through the network layer, and you just need to display those stuff. So you would be having a table view or a collection view or maybe some you know label or something, and you want to place those data on those labels or collection view. So basically, on initiating, like on load, it would initiate those stuff, and basically you will get every data from the view model. Let's not discuss about it. We'll go into the flow, but for the time, you'll get the data from the presenter, and view controller will display everything, and it would tightly bound every data to every outlet present. Interactor, you can call it as the brain of Viper. Why? Because Interactor, what it does exactly? Um, let's take a good example. You know, if there is a CEO of the company, the CEO would, you see, would tell, do the stuff. He would not contact anyone except the manager. The CEO would say, do this thing. So the manager will say, okay, I'll do this thing. The manager itself won't be doing those stuff. It would give those work to the employees, and so on. You get the result from the employee, and the employee passes that result to the manager again, and the manager gives those results to the CEO again. But still, the brand is officially binded to the CEO and not the manager and not the employee, because the CEO is the main. He's responsible for everything. So the interactor is the CEO, and the manager is the worker. We'll see what is worker. But for the time, there is some workers which do the work which is for the interactor, and they pass the data. And the employees are the network layer in this scenario. Let's say we have to fetch some data. So the employees are the network layer which would perform the data, fetch the data, get the JSON data. It would send the worker would ask them to get the JSON data. The worker, when received the JSON data, would simply pass the data to the interactor. It perform any of processing stuff if required and pass the data to presenter. Maybe you'll get 10 items from the JSON, you know, but you don't want all those 10 items to be exposed to the user. Maybe 4 are required. So only 4 will be passed to the presenter. Or maybe the presenter would take only the 4 data, and will give only 4 data to the view controller. If workload is huge, it simply assign work to the workers. Just like I said right now. So it would simply assign the work to the workers. Interactor and worker, how they coordinate exactly. So the worker is responsible to get the data from different layers, as I said, um, present inside the architecture, like the network layer or the core data. The core data is nothing but, if you don't know about core data, it's simply a caching process, a way of handling complex data, which is present offline. So just don't freak out. We'll go through everything in detail till now. Okay. So what is a presenter? It is responsible to send only those data which is required to be exposed by the view controller. So the presenter have 10 data which has just been received by the interactor, 10 items, and yeah, you get 10 items after hitting the server, but you need to show only 4 of them. Presenter will simply send 4 items to the view controller. Simple as that. So I just need 4 items. That's it. But what is entity? No, just I said, it corresponds to model. Nothing but just a model. They just changed the name. I don't know. Maybe it shouldn't be VIPME. I don't know. Whatever. So yeah. Hmm. So it means model basically. To get list of movies, you would require to send a request. What would a model would have in it? Like, think about something like, if you want to get a data, if you want to get a data from HTTP, so you would first request for the data. So you would send a request. In turn, you'll get a response. But if you get the response, it's a big chunk of data, and you need only something. So to display something you need, you'll be needing a view model. A view model would only take few data. It can take the whole chunk of data, but a view model something would only take those stuff which is required to be displayed. That's it. We have router. It's a routing process. Every view controller would have 5 files. Every scene, actually we don't say view controllers, it's a scene. So a landing page is a scene. I mean, a detail page is a scene. So every scene would have 5 files in it. That is VIP. Last file is router. What it does exactly, whenever you get the data by hitting the server, you don't want to make them as use and as default. If you know this stuff, if you're an Android developer also, you should be knowing what is shared preference. It's basically a file which it's a global file access. So yeah, you can get the data. It's a dictionary file kind of. So you can access those data anywhere in the application, but it's not a good practice to keep everything inside use NS user defaults or user defaults, Swift 3 and Swift 4. So the router, how would the router would pass those data? No, you can see those things in code, but for now, the router would simply pass the data which he got from the after processing of the data from interactor, or maybe um, actually it gets the data from the interactor only. But for now, how would it pass? So it would create the object of those screens which he needs to pass the data. Let's not go into deep, but there is a router which simply takes the data and places it somewhere else, so that the other screen, the other view controller doesn't need to perform another network call to get the same data. That's the logic. This is a clean architecture. What it does exactly, we get data from network, we get data from core data, we get data, like, there's no data from helper. A helper is basically things, constant files and utility files. The constant file would have base URL, the things which is have constant values. For example, um, there is only one link which is constant, and after that you concat with other you account URLs, or maybe sign up URLs, and create a whole new web link. So a helper class would have many things. A helper folder would have many things. So utils and constants. A network would have network related files. Um, Same goes with core data. Network related files, as in, you know, there would be a file who would get uh, the data for the landing screen, and the same data is being used for the details. The network would also have a network model, so that what kind of data is being coming, whatever kind of data is being coming from the server, will be storing those data. The data would be in JSON, but you need something in primitive data type, like int and string or something like that. So yeah, this is all good. This is all theoretical. We'll go into this flow later on. When you see code, um, you'll be more, be getting a good idea about it. Then, for now, let's just say there's a network, there's a core data, and there's a helper, and in between there's Viper. So it's an architecture. So every data is completely interacting with the Viper architecture. Everything is performed inside the Viper. Just the stuff, the processing of data and everything separated. That does mean it has layers to perform data, to perform processing. There's a network layer, there's a core data layer, there's a helper layer, there's a Viper layer. The Viper layer itself means an architecture layer. You can also replace this Viper with MVVM or MVC, but Viper itself is an application to clean architecture. So you're performing clean architecture with the application of clean architecture. That makes your code much clean, easy to debug, flexible, testable. That's why clean architecture. So this is VIP cycle. It's a cycle for Viper. So we have view, we have interactor, we have presenter. Let's say, let's say on load I have to display 4 photos. Okay, so those photos will be coming from the server. How I'm gonna perform these stuff? So we all know when we start the project, the first thing which is loaded is app delegate. We have nothing to do with app delegate now. The second thing would be launch screen. The third thing would be the view controller. Yes, the view controller. Here, the view is the view controller. And the first thing which is loaded by the view controller is that view load, or the setup which you initiate. So we just count for a bit for now. We just count it as the setup, the view did load. And inside the view did load, I've written one function, fetch all the data on load. Get 4 photos. These 4 photos will be a request given by view controller to the interactor. The interactor would say, okay, you want those 4 photos. I have no idea about what are you saying. You know, you just need those photos. I can do something. I'll just call my worker and you know um, tell him to make a network call and get those photos. The interactor would simply contact a worker. The worker would contact the network layer. The network layer will give the data. Will fetch the data and give to the worker, and from worker the data would be given to interactor. And now the interactor has the data, so he got the response, right? So the data is now in a response state. So I've already worked with, you know, so we have done with the request. We got the request from view. So we already got response from worker. But what about presenter? Just as I said, there's something called as view model. The view model will basically consist of those items which is need to be exposed to the view controller, because again we see the flow. The presenter gives the data to the view. The view then performs, the UI label, and you see it performs actions on UI label. It plays the text on UI label, um, and photos on UI image views, and etc etc whatever. So for those we need a view model. This is how the VIP cycle works. If you don't get anything, please comment down below. We'll come to it. Thank you. So